In the quiet, sprawling fields of ancient Mesopotamia, a cunning game of deception and survival was unfolding. Jacob, a man whose life was a tapestry of trickery and divine intervention, found himself in a precarious position. He had served his father-in-law, Laban, for 2 decades, building a life and a family. But now, the atmosphere around him was thick with suspicion and hostility. Laban's sons believed Jacob had stolen their father's wealth, and Laban himself wore a face that betrayed his growing distrust. It was a moment of crisis, a turning point that would define Jacob's future and the legacy he would leave behind. Jacob's journey with Laban began when he fled from his brother, Esau, after stealing the blessing that was meant for him. Desperate and alone, he found refuge in the household of his uncle, Laban. Initially, Jacob's presence was a boon to Laban. Jacob was a skilled shepherd, and his hard work and dedication brought prosperity to the flocks. In return, Laban promised Jacob the hand of his younger daughter, Rachel, in marriage. However, Laban was a shrewd and deceitful man. On the wedding night, he substituted his older daughter, Leah, for Rachel, forcing Jacob to work an additional 7 years to marry his beloved. Despite the challenges, Jacob's relationship with Laban was initially one of mutual benefit. Jacob's expertise in animal husbandry and his tireless labor made the flocks grow, and Laban's wealth increased. However, over time, the balance of power shifted. Jacob, driven by a combination of ambition and divine guidance, began to devise a plan to secure his own prosperity. He agreed to work for Laban in exchange for the speckled and spotted sheep and goats, animals that were rare and considered less valuable. Laban, believing he was getting the better deal, agreed. But Jacob's plan was more cunning than Laban could have imagined. Jacob's strategy involved a combination of ancient superstition and practical breeding techniques. He placed peeled rods in the watering troughs, believing that the visual stimulation of the white and dark patterns would influence the offspring's coloring. While this may seem like a superstition, some scholars suggest that Jacob's methods were based on a rudimentary understanding of genetics. By encouraging the breeding of the more vigorous animals, Jacob increased the likelihood of producing offspring with the desired traits. Over time, Jacob's flocks grew, and his wealth began to rival that of Laban. As Jacob's prosperity grew, so did the resentment in Laban's household. Laban's sons accused Jacob of stealing their father's wealth, and Laban himself began to treat Jacob with suspicion. The atmosphere became tense, and Jacob realized it was time to leave. But leaving was not easy. Laban had a strong grip on his household, and Jacob knew he would face resistance. To ensure a smooth departure, Jacob devised a plan. He called Rachel and Leah to the fields, away from Laban's prying eyes, and explained his intentions. He told them that God had appeared to him in a dream, instructing him to return to the land of his fathers. Rachel and Leah, feeling alienated by their father, agreed to go with Jacob. The night of their departure was fraught with tension. Rachel, in a final act of defiance, stole her father's household gods, perhaps as a way to sever her ties with Laban or to ensure the favor of the deities. Jacob, fearing retaliation, did not inform Laban of their plans. They fled under the cover of darkness, crossing the Euphrates and heading toward the high country of Gilead. Laban, upon discovering their departure, gathered his kinsmen and pursued them. The chase was intense, and for 7 days Laban and his men searched for Jacob and his family. When Laban finally caught up with Jacob, the tension was palpable. Laban accused Jacob of deception and theft, demanding to know why he had fled without warning and why Rachel had stolen the household gods. Jacob, standing firm, defended himself, recounting the years of hard labor and the many times Laban had cheated him. He challenged Laban to search his belongings, confident that the stolen gods would not be found. Laban searched the tents, but Rachel, cleverly hiding the idols beneath her, managed to deceive her father. The confrontation between Jacob and Laban was a pivotal moment. Jacob, tired of the accusations and the constant suspicion, expressed his grievances. He reminded Laban of the years of loyalty and hard work, the sacrifices he had made, and the divine protection he had received. Laban, perhaps recognizing the futility of further conflict, proposed a pact. They agreed to set up a mound of stones as a witness to their agreement, a symbolic boundary that neither would cross to harm the other. Laban called it Yegar-Sahudutha, while Jacob named it Gal-Ed. They sealed the pact with a vow, invoking the gods of their ancestors to hold them accountable. As the two men parted ways, the air was thick with a mixture of relief and unresolved tension. Jacob, with his family and flocks, continued his journey toward the land of his fathers. The story of Jacob and Laban is a testament to the complexities of human relationships, the power of divine intervention, and the resilience of those who face adversity. It is a narrative that resonates through the ages, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is a path to freedom and a chance for a new beginning. In the end, Jacob's story is one of transformation. From a man who stole a blessing to a patriarch who built his own legacy, Jacob's journey is a powerful testament to the human spirit. As he crossed the boundary into a new chapter of his life, Jacob carried with him the lessons of his past and the promise of a better future. The path ahead was uncertain, but Jacob's faith and determination would guide him. And so, with a final glance at the stone mound that marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, Jacob set his face toward the horizon, ready to face whatever lay ahead.